At 2:17 in the morning, I pulled my wife's nightgown strap back up. Her breathing was steady. So steady I knew the sleeping pills had kicked in. In the nightstand drawer sat the stuff I'd prepped for 3 weeks. My name is Yang Wei, the model husband in the neighborhood. Right now, I'm waiting for my wife to be completely out. I've been playing the good husband for 11 years, acting so long, even I almost woke up. But he'll never know. At 2:17 in the morning, I woke up. Actually, I never slept at all. I was waiting for this moment. Lily's breathing turned smooth and long. She'd hit that rock-solid deep sleep. Her body curled up, the blanket all tangled, one arm hanging out. The red nail polish on her nails glowed dim in the nightlight. Her nightgown strap slipped down a bit. I reached out, gently pulled her strap back up, then tugged the blanket up, tucked it into the gap by her shoulder. Slow and gentle moves. Like handling something fragile. I've done this for over a decade. As natural as breathing. Her breathing didn't change at all. She slept like a body without a soul. I stared at her face in the dark. My gaze slowly dropped to her pillow. White. Cotton. The laundry detergent smell still hanging around. The nightstand drawer wasn't locked. I'd just reorganized the stuff this afternoon. A tiny jar of crushed sleeping pills, 2 rolls of gray tape, 5 pairs of disposable rubber gloves. Every single item neatly arranged, like tools on a surgery table. I gently closed the drawer. Not a sound. My phone on the nightstand lit up. I glanced at it. It was a message from his sister. Hey. Don't rush the house thing. Talk to him slow. Talk slow. I whispered those 3 words to myself. Almost laughed out loud. Talk about what? About this house where I paid half the down payment. Who owns a house after 7 years of mortgage payments? Does that savings account in his name? I never even knew about count as shared property. That one line he always repeats every time we fight. You're an outsider. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have a foothold here. I'm so tired of hearing all that. None of what he says is deadly. But every word is like a nail. Once it's in you can't pull it out. My name is Mike. I'm 43 years old. In everyone's eyes, I'm the picture-perfect guy. That's not me blowing my own horn. It's a role I've been playing for over a decade straight. Up at 6:30 every morning. Making him breakfast. The porridge has to be just the right thickness. Too thick, and he says it's like paste. Too thin and he says it's like water. It took me 3 years to nail the consistency he likes. The side dishes have to be cut evenly. Chopsticks placed on the right side of the bowl. Because he's right-handed, I know his period dates better than he does. Buy brown sugar ginger tea 2 days early. Stew red date and silver ear soup the day before. Sometimes he even forgets himself. Only when he sees what I've got does he say, oh it's that time again. Once he casually mentioned wanting a rare book. I searched for 2 months. Asked 3 people to help track it down. He took it, flipped through a few pages. Set it on the nightstand. And never touched it again. But none of that matters. What matters is everyone sees it. Neighbor Aunt Lou tells anyone who'll listen. Look at Mike, so hardworking and thoughtful. My guy doesn't even know how to wash a dish. Lily's sister Jenny said at the family gathering, brother-in-law really treats my sister well. My sister made a good catch. His mom also said, Mike is a great son-in-law. Lily marrying you is her blessing. I took all those compliments, smiling. Not because I'm fake, but because that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted everyone to know. I'm a good husband. The better husband I am, the less likely I'll ever be suspected. It's that simple. But the role of good husband, I've been playing for 11 years. Playing it so well I almost believe it myself. Until that one night. He casually dropped a line at the dinner table. My mom said, the house will be put under my name next month. So cooperate with me. When he says this, he didn't even look up, picked up a piece of greens with his chopsticks. Chewing it with a loud crunch. Like he was talking about something totally normal. I was washing dishes at the time, and the plate in my hand slipped a bit, hitting the edge of the sink, making a sharp sound. He looked up at me, frowning slightly. Be careful, that plate was a gift from my mom. The plate didn't break, but something inside me shattered. That apartment was bought 3 years ago. It was a benefit apartment from Lily's company. Total price was $1.2 million. He put down $600,000 as the down payment. I used the money I've saved over the years for $500,000. All my savings from 7 whole years. The remaining $100,000 was a loan. $4,300 every month. Deducted from my salary card. 7 years of savings. 36 months of payments over 3 years. Never missed a single day. And now he tells me this apartment has nothing to do with me. I didn't say it has nothing to do with you. He put down his chopsticks. His voice getting louder. I said it's transferring the title. The apartment was always under my name. Now it's just a formality. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Those 4 words felt like a knife, hitting me right where it hurt most. I remember 5 years ago when his sister got married. I gave 5,000 yuan as a wedding gift, and Lily thought it was too little, saying in front of the whole family, "How much do you make in a month? Don't try to look rich when you're not." Everyone in the family laughed. I laughed too. I remember 3 years ago when my mom was in the hospital. I wanted to send an extra 2,000 yuan back home. He said without even looking at me, his eyes glued to his phone screen, "Handle your side of the family yourself. Don't touch the household money. Don't touch the household money. It's not our money. It's the household's money. And this household doesn't include my mom." I remember last month I suggested we save up together to get a new car. And he just laughed. I know that smile too well. Corners of the mouth go up, but the eyes stay dead. You won't be able to buy that with your salary, even if you save till retirement. When that line came out, his sister Lyman was right there. She just bowed her head and took a sip of soup, didn't say a word. Each sentence wasn't deadly, but each one felt like a nail digging in. Can't pull it out. After 11 years of this piling up, I'm like a plank full of nails. Still looks fine from the outside, but all holes inside. But honestly, he wasn't all bad either. Last year I had a fever up to 40-something. He took a day off to stay with me at home. Even though he complained the whole time about how careless I was. But he was the one who made the soup. If he fed it to me, I went to the hospital for fluids. He sat next to me scrolling his phone all afternoon. But when I woke up, the oranges he bought were right there on the bedside. He bought a copy of Nonviolent Communication. Left it on the nightstand for 2 months. Never got past chapter 3. I eventually tucked that book into the bottom shelf of the bookcase, sandwiched between the property fee slip and the demolition notice. He thought about changing. Maybe he just couldn't do it. Just like I thought about leaving. But never did either. I didn't fight with him. Not because I'm easygoing, but because I didn't need to fight anymore. That afternoon, I left work an hour early. Went to a neighborhood I'd never been to. There was a little pharmacy there. The owner was a guy in his 50s, wearing reading glasses. I knew this place got reported for selling fake stuff a couple years back, and it just blew over. A guy like that will sell anything if you pay up. Got any sleeping pills? I asked him. He gave me a look. Pulled a box from under the counter. Yeah, the powder kind. He shook his head. It's a scam. I bought 2 boxes. $40. I turned right after stepping out. I went to the hardware store and bought a roll of gray tape. The wide kind. I tested the stickiness with my fingernail. Good stuff. I put these in a plastic bag, with 2 crucian carps, and a bunch of greens and carried them home. Looked totally ordinary. That day came back late from dinner at his mom's place. Was already late. I put the fish in the sink. Rolled up the plastic bag and stuffed it in the kitchen drawer. Acted as natural as tossing a trash bag. The next morning, he didn't notice a thing. In the days that followed, I started doing my homework. Layli's daily schedule. Has milk around 10:30 p.m. Asleep before 11. Falls into deep sleep about 40 minutes after milk. Rolls over between 2 and 3 a.m. But doesn't wake up. His social habits. Calls his mom 3 times a week. Eats at his sister's place every Friday night. Sleeps in on weekends. His phone password. His birthday. The password for his bank book. Also his birth. I memorized each piece of info one by one. Like a user manual. No fluff. Nothing missed. At the same time, I started acting even better. When making honey water in the morning, I stirred it a few extra times. Made sure the honey was fully dissolved. He had complained before that I didn't mix it well. When warming milk at night, I tested the temperature twice. Not too hot, not too cold. He took a sip. Said it's just right. And that was it. His mom came over. I cooked a whole table of food myself. Braised pork. Steamed sea bass. Garlic broccoli. Rib soup. All her favorites. The old lady was happy eating. Before leaving she held my hand and said, "Yang Wei, you're a good son-in-law." Layli was listening nearby, and gave a little smile too. That smile had satisfaction in it. And a bit of triumph. Maybe he wasn't thinking anything. But I didn't care anymore. The phone call came that weekend. I bought a small cutter online. When the delivery arrived at the neighborhood gate, Aunt Lou happened to be coming downstairs and saw it. "Yang Wei. Buying such a big thing. What are you gonna do with it?" "It's for a friend. He's doing some renovation. He doesn't have enough tools." Aunt Lou said something and then left. I carried the box upstairs. Opened the package. Put the cutter in the corner of the balcony. Covered it with an old sheet. Lily worked overtime that day. Came back late. He changed his shoes and went to the balcony to get the laundry. Glanced at the corner. "What's that?" "A cutter. Borrowed it for a friend." I didn't say. Bought it. I said borrowed. Borrowed means you have to give it back. Buying it is different. I wasn't even sure if that difference meant anything. But in that moment, I instinctively chose the safer option. He didn't ask again. But I knew he remembered. The next day at dinner, he suddenly said, "When is your friend picking up that cutter? It's just in the way on the balcony. By the weekend." "Which friend?" "Zhao Gang. You don't know him. He does renovations." He gave me a look. That look wasn't suspicion. More like alertness. Like a cat catching a strange smell. Ears perked up. Body slightly tense. Ready to spring at any moment. That meal tasted like cardboard to me. On day 3, Lai Li's sister came over for dinner. I wasn't sure if Lai Li had invited her. But at the dinner table, Lai Meng suddenly asked, "Brother-in-law, I heard you bought a cutter." My chopsticks froze for a second. "Borrowed it for a friend. Gonna return it soon." Lai Meng grunted, then kept her head down and ate. Out of the corner of my eye I saw Lai Li. He was putting food in Lai Meng's bowl. Picking up a soft-boiled egg. But his fingers stayed still on the chopsticks. He was listening. I knew it. The cutter was being remembered at that moment. Lai Li had mentioned it to his sister. Maybe to his mom too. Maybe even to his co-workers. This meant, if anything happened to Lai Li, that cutter would be the first thing questioned. I needed to get rid of it. More importantly, I needed to speed things up. The countdown really started that Saturday afternoon. Lai Li came back from his mom's place. His face looked rough. He tossed his bag onto the couch. Walked into the kitchen without changing shoes. My mom asked about the house transfer. "Are you on board or not?" I was cutting vegetables. The knife didn't stop. I said it before. "No rush. No rush." He let out a cold laugh. "Yang Wei, I'm gonna be straight with you. My mom already talked to a lawyer about this house. A prenup plus the payment records. Going through legal channels. You won't get a single cent. Not a single cent." I stopped the knife. Turned around to look at him. He stood in the kitchen doorway. Chin slightly lifted. Lips pressed together. A glint in his eyes. Not tears. It was a kind of looking down on you. A judging kind of light. "I paid half the down payment. And 3 years of mortgage. You're saying I get nothing?" "The mortgage was paid with joint marital money. Not just yours." His voice was super calm. Like reciting a law from memory. "If you cooperate," my mom said, "she can give you 100,000 as compensation. If you don't cooperate, we're going legal. Then you won't even get 100 grand. Pay me 100 grand. I put in $500,000. And still gotta pay off the loan for 7 years. And he's offering 100 grand. I stare at his face. That face I've been looking at for 11 years. Back when we first got married. This face had a nice smile. Eyes curved. Like a crescent moon. He'd hold my arm walking down the street. His head on my shoulder. Saying, "Mike, let's be this good forever." Now it's still the same face. But the expression is totally different. Like a stranger. Borrowing my wife's skin. Standing in front of me. Saying the meanest things to me. "Mike, don't forget." His voice suddenly dropped. But every word hit harder. "If it wasn't for me, you'd never buy this house. You're an outsider. You should be grateful. You can settle here. I've been married to you for years. What have you given me for this family?" The air suddenly went silent. The knife chopping veggies is still on the cutting board. Half a cucumber rolled to the sink edge. The faucet isn't fully shut. Drip drip drip. Like some kind of countdown. The word outsider he said a lot. Never when I got promoted or a raise. Never when I made the down payment. Never when 4,300 got taken from my paycheck each month. Only when we fight. Only when he needs to remind me of my place. I didn't say a word. Not because I had nothing to say. But because in that moment I suddenly got super calm. Like a pressure cooker that's been going. All the steam just got sucked out. The lid goes quiet. The water surface smooth like a mirror. I turned around, and shut off the stove. Set the knife by the sink. Wiped my hands. Walked out of the kitchen. Lily thought I backed down again. Snorted. Turned and went back to the living room. I walk into the bedroom. Close the door. Pull open the nightstand drawer. Sleeping pill powder. Tape. Gloves all there. I stare at them for about 10 seconds. Nothing he said was lethal. The $50,000 down payment wasn't lethal. The 7-year loan wasn't lethal. The 11-year marriage wasn't lethal. But all of it together. Like 1,000 streams turning into a flood. Wiping out the last wall inside me. Tonight's the night. I sit down on the edge of the bed. Lower my head. No anger in my mind. No sadness. Not even fear. Just one clear, emotionless judgment. It's time to end this. When Riley came out of the shower, it was already 10:20. He was wearing a light pink pajama dress. Hair half dry hanging on his shoulders. Probably saw some funny video. Still had a smile on his face. He leaned against the bedroom door. Glanced at me. Heat me up a glass of milk. Okay. I walk into the kitchen. I grabbed the milk from the fridge. Poured it into a glass. Stuck it in the microwave. The microwave hummed as it spun. The warm yellow light hit my face. I stared at my face reflected in the glass door. Calm. Too calm. The milk was ready. I pulled that little paper packet from my pocket. Inside was the powder I ground for half an hour. The grains were as fine as flour. I poured the powder into the milk. Stirred it with a small spoon. The powder dissolved fast. The milk color didn't change at all. Even the smell was covered by the milky scent. I carried this glass of milk across the hallway. When Layli took the glass, his fingers brushed right against mine. Warm. He took a sip. Does the milk taste off today? No way. I just bought it yesterday. I smiled. Maybe you caught a cold. Your taste buds are acting up. He took a couple more sips. The glass was empty in no time. He handed me the empty glass. Yawned. I'm sleepy. Gotta crash. Okay. I was cleaning up the kitchen. He crawled into bed. Rolled over. His back facing me. I stood at the bedroom door for a few seconds watching. He curled up into a tiny ball under the covers. His shoulders rising and falling gently with each breath. Like a harmless kid. I walked into the kitchen. Put the glass by the sink. Didn't wash it. I stood by the window. Staring out at the night. The neighborhood was dead quiet. The streetlights were dim yellow. Bugs were chirping in the flower bed downstairs. One after another. I pulled out my phone and checked the time. 20 past 10. He had 40 minutes until deep sleep. I waited in the dark. 10:20. I walked into the bedroom. Layli was already out cold. His breathing was steady and slow. His mouth slightly open. Just a hint of teeth showing. His phone still lit up, resting right by the pillow. I grabbed his phone. And turned off the screen. Placed it on the nightstand. He didn't move. I slid open the drawer. Pulled out tape and gloves. Slipped on the disposable gloves. The rubbery feel against my skin. All cold and eerie. I tore off a piece of tape. About 8 inches long. Ripped it. The sound. Cut through the quiet room like a knife. He furrowed his brow. But didn't wake up. I walked around to his side of the bed. Bent down. The moment the tape touched his lips, his eyes snapped open. For just 1 second. In that split second, those eyes held no fear. No anger. Just a kind of confusion I'd never seen. Like a lost kid. Searching for a familiar face in the dark. He was looking at me. Then he closed his eyes. I can't forget that look. 11 years of marriage. His last look at me was asking. Who are you? I pressed the pillow over his face. Both hands steady and even. He started struggling. The sleeping pills made his fight weak. But instincts were still there. His hand shot out from under the covers. Grabbing at empty air. His nails scraped across my arm. Leaving a faint red trail. His legs kicked a couple times. His knee hit the bedboard. A dull thud echoed. I pushed harder. A sudden image flashed in my mind. The first time he came to my place for dinner. My mom made braised pork. He ate 3 bowls of rice. Grinning, saying your mom's cooking is amazing. That image lasted barely a second. Then I pressed him back down. And kept going. He stopped moving. I held it 2 more minutes. Make sure everything is solid. Then slowly let go. Pillow set aside. I step back. Standing by the bed. Watching him. His eyes are closed. No pain on his face. Even kinda peaceful weirdly. Tape covers half his face. Only forehead and eyes showing. Long eyelashes. Twitching a little. But I know it's not life. Just muscle nerve reflexes at the end. Bedroom is super quiet. AC humming away. Crickets still chirping outside. I looked down at my hands. Rubber gloves clean as a whistle. Felt nothing when I did it. No hate. No fear. Like a drowning person. Finally stopped fighting. But that image, the second his eyes opened, sticks in my brain like a needle. Can't pull it out no matter what. Real test starts now. I moved Layli from the bedroom to the bathroom. He's heavier than I thought. People's get super heavy when they're out cold. Like a bag of wet sand. Almost tripped in the hallway. If I dropped him, the thud might wake up the neighbor downstairs. I prepped the bathroom. Floor covered with plastic sheets. Black trash bags stacked in the corner. Shower hose extended. Saw brought in from the balcony. Power cord along the baseboard. Tape down tight. Faucet turned all the way. Water splashing on tiles loud. Loud enough to cover everything. I squat down. Start the next few hours. Like a machine with a program set. Not because I'm cold-blooded. But because I can't think. If I think I'll stop. If I stop I'm done. Water ran for a long time. I stopped once. Not because I was tired. But because a grocery receipt fell out of his pocket. I picked it up and looked. It had what he bought. pork ribs, some greens, yogurt, and a bag of my favorite 5-spice peanuts. He bought them yesterday. I held that receipt and squatted there. Maybe like 10 seconds. Maybe 20 seconds. Then I tossed the receipt into the black trash bag. Kept letting the water run over my hands. Cold as hell. Those eyes came back to me again. Just 1 second. But in that 1 second, the way he looked at me, like he didn't know who I was. 11 years married. The last look he gave me was asking, "Who are you?" By the time I finished everything, it was almost dawn. The bathroom floor was scrubbed spotless. The plastic sheet rolled up and stuffed into a trash bag. The cutting machine wiped 3 times and put back on the balcony. The sheets were remade neatly. The air only smelled of disinfectant. I walked into the shower. Washed myself head to toe 3 times. Shampoo twice. Body wash twice. Water turned up all the way. Skin burning red. But I didn't feel a thing. Put on clean clothes. Went back to the bedroom to change the sheets. Changed the pillowcases. Stuffed the old bedding into the trash bag. The bedroom looked perfectly normal. Like any ordinary morning. Wife went to work. Husband just finished washing up. I sat on the couch staring at the clock on the wall. 6:23 in the morning. I picked up his phone. Unlocked it with his fingerprint. Deleted all the chat history with his mom from last night. Then I scrolled to his notes. There was a pinned reminder. I had never seen it before. Next Wednesday Yang Wei has a checkup. Remind him. I stared at that line for 5 seconds. Then I put the phone back in his bag. It was off. Next I dialed his number. Still off. I took a deep breath. Walked into the kitchen. Started making breakfast. The porridge was just right. The veggies are cut evenly. Chopsticks are placed on the right side of the bowl. Everything's normal. 9 in the morning. The call from Lily's office came. "Hey Yang. Lily didn't show up today. And her phone's dead. Is he home? He said he was tired last night. Might go in late today. I'll try again later." My voice had just the right amount of concern. Hung up the phone. I waited for 10 seconds. Can't be too eager. A normal husband wouldn't call the cops, just from one phone call. Then I grabbed my keys. Walked out the door. Ran into Aunt Lou in the elevator. "Yang Wei out so early." I frowned. "Auntie. Lily didn't come back last night. And her phone's off. I'm gonna check with the guard." Aunt Lou's smile froze. "Didn't come back. Weren't you too fine yesterday?" "Yeah. That's why I'm worried." The elevator doors opened. I walked out fast. Aunt Lou stood there. Totally confused. I got to the gate. Guard Joe was in the booth scrolling his phone. "Hey Joe. Were you on duty last night?" "Till 2. What's up?" "My wife went out yesterday and hasn't come back. Heading to her office to check. And wanna see if you saw her come in." Joe thought about it. Shook his head. "Didn't notice. Did you call the cops?" "Gonna wait a bit." Joe nodded. His eyes stayed on my face. I paused for a sec. Just a sec. But that needle in my chest pricked again. My face didn't change. I met his gaze real natural. Nodded. Turned, and walked off. Stepped out the neighborhood gate. I took a deep breath. From Aunt Lou to old Joe. Every stare felt like a needle. You never know which one's gonna really jab you. After leaving the workplace, I went straight to the station. The cop who took my report was Officer Fang. Early 30s. Wearing glasses. He spoke real slow. Paused a few seconds after each question. Like he was watching my reaction. "When was the last time you saw your wife?" "Around 6 last night. She had dinner at home." "What did she say when she left?" "Said she was going out for a walk." "I thought she went to work." "Any recent conflicts between you two?" I had my answers ready. "Married couple, you know. We bicker sometimes." "Nothing serious." Officer Fang jotted it down. Then asked some routine stuff. "Does your wife have any money problems? Or beef with anyone else?" "No." "How's her mood been lately?" "Normal. Nothing off." Officer Fang put down his pen. Gave me a look. "Go on home for now. We'll file a case and investigate. We'll call you if we hear anything." I stood up. Shook his hand. "Thanks, Officer Fang." Stepped out of the station. The sun was nice. But the back of my shirt was soaked with sweat. Day 6. Ira Mung showed up. Her eyes were red when she came in. She was clutching a ball of tissues. Already shredded to bits. "Bro-in-law. Where did my sister go?" She texted me the day before she disappeared. Said she was tired and wanted to sleep. "How can she just vanish?" I patted him on the shoulder. "I'm looking too. You guys didn't fight that day, did you?" Ray looked up at me. His eyes were full of tears. "No. Really, no." Ray stayed quiet for a few seconds. Then he asked me something that gave me chills. "Bro-in-law. My sister told me you bought a cutter. What's that thing for?" My hand didn't shake. But it took everything I had. I borrowed it for a friend. Gave it back ages ago. Ray stared at me for 2 seconds. Those 2 seconds felt like 2 years. Then he looked down, and kept crying. I don't know if he bought it. But I knew. I couldn't let this fester. That afternoon, I reached out to a friend who does media. I said I'm down for an interview. Put out a reward to find her. The interview went down in my living room. I wore that dark blue shirt Lily got me. He said that color looks good on me. Washed my hair. Shaved my beard. Didn't hide the dark circles under my eyes. Had to look like a guy who hasn't slept well in days. The reporter asked, Mr. Yang, when was the last time you saw your wife? Around 6 last Thursday afternoon. I kept my pace steady. Pausing once in a while. Voice cracking now and then. How's your relationship with her? I looked at the camera. My eyes steady and honest. I practiced that look in the mirror plenty. We've always been good. Married all these years. Hardly ever fought. I lowered my head. Rubbed my eye with the back of my hand. Lily, if you're watching, please come back. Everyone's worried about you. I lifted my head. Looked at the camera. I'm putting up 100,000 reward. Hope some kind soul can give a lead. 100 grand. Our whole savings is like 150 grand, but I knew that number would get this story more views. The reporter asked a question I wasn't ready for. There are some rumors online saying you and your wife had a fight over property recently. What do you think? I paused for a moment, denying it would be too fake, admitting it too much. So I kept it vague. Every family has its own little problems. I forced a bitter smile. But next to our 10+ years together, they don't mean a thing. Right now I just want to find him. Nothing else matters. The reporter nodded. When the interview aired, most of the comments were sympathy. There was one line I remember really well. For real. You can tell he's a great husband. Who doesn't argue sometimes. Can't judge someone just because they had a fight. I took a screenshot. And saved it on my phone. But another comment showed up. Just a few words. But they hit like a needle. He's too good of an actor. I stared at those 4 words for a long time. Then swiped away. Day 12. That evening, Aunt Lou stopped me in the hallway. Young Wei. Your place has been making loud water sounds at night. Is your pipe broken? I froze for a second. Then forced a laugh. Yeah. I've been doing laundry. The washer's been leaking. Gotta get someone to fix it. Aunt Lou made a sound. And went upstairs. I stood there in the hallway. My legs feeling weak. The washing machine. Ours had been broken for 2 months. We've been washing everything by hand. The doorbell rang. Officer Fang stood at the door. With a woman behind him. In her early 40s. Short hair. No makeup. But even in casual clothes you could tell she was a cop. Mr. Yang. This is Captain Lin. 2 guys walk in and sit down. Officer Fang pulls out his notebook. Mr. Yang. The day your wife went missing. Where were you? At home. All day. What time did you go grocery shopping? Around 4 something. Which market? Minsheng Market. 2nd floor seafood section. Officer Fang jots it all down. Then he sets the pen down. And looks at me. Have you bought any sleeping pills recently? I squeeze my knee. Then let go. No. My sleep's pretty decent. I don't mess with that. Did you ask about sleeping pills at any pharmacy? No. Never even asked. Captain Lin suddenly speaks up. His voice is super flat. Like he's talking about the weather. Mr. Yang. We checked a few pharmacies. Some clerk said 3 weeks ago a guy who looks a lot like you came asking for sleeping pills. The air changes. Not changes, it gets thinner. Like someone sucked half the oxygen out of the interrogation room. I force a grin. That kind of bitter smile. Probably just someone who looks like me. Officer. I really never bought any sleeping pills. You can check my health insurance card. I've never had a prescription for that stuff. That part is true. I didn't use my health card. I paid cash. Captain Lin stares at me for a few seconds. Does your wife have sleep issues? She sometimes drinks some herbal tea to help her sleep. But not often. Captain Lin nods. When he stands up. His eyes pause on the shoe rack. The shoes Lily wore the day she disappeared are still sitting there. I didn't move them. 'Cause a normal husband wouldn't mess with his wife's stuff. After they leave, I close the door. Lean against it. My legs feel a little weak. They found the pharmacy. The needle has already sunk in. Day 15. A bunch of cops showed up in the neighborhood. Not from the local precinct. They were from the district office. And some from the city bureau. They put up caution tape all around. Pulled every single camera feed. Checked each camera one by one. I started having trouble sleeping. Not because I was scared. It was more like waiting. You know something's gonna come crashing down eventually. But you don't know when. What really drove me crazy was, I started seeing him. A familiar figure flashed by in the kitchen. I spun around fast. But there was nothing. In the bathroom I caught a smell, so strong it made me gag a few times. But after I ran the water, it was all gone. I turned the faucet on full blast, crouched on the floor, panting heavily. That night, Aunt Lou came by again, carrying a bowl of soup. Wei, don't stress yourself out too much. Lily will come back. I took the bowl from her, and said, thanks. After Aunt Lou left, I stood on the balcony holding that soup, staring at the police car that just pulled in downstairs. The soup was warm, but I couldn't taste a thing. The smell. Day 20. Officer Fang came again. This time he didn't knock. Just walked right in. I gave him a key before, to show I was cooperating. When he walked in, I was having lunch. A bowl of noodles, 1 poached egg. Mr. Yang, a few things I want to double check with you. He pulled a photo out of his bag, slid it over. A white plastic bottle. No label. Does this bottle ring a bell? I stared at the photo for 2 seconds. Shook my head. No. Never seen it. We found this bottle in the trash can outside your building. Officer Fang's voice was flat. Your prints are on it. My fingers started shaking under the table. But on the table, my left hand was holding chopsticks. Steady. No way. I've never seen that bottle. My voice trembled a little bit. Just the right amount of anger and hurt a guy would have if he was being framed. Did you go to the alley behind the complex? No. Any clogged drains at your place recently? My pupils shrank a tiny bit. No. Officer Fang closed his notebook. Stood up. Mr. Yang, don't go out of town for a few days. We'll reach out if anything comes up. He got to the door, then stopped. Oh right. That cutter you had, is it still around? My heart skipped a beat. Returned it. To who? A friend. He does remodeling. What's his name? Contact info. Zhao Gang. I got a new phone. All the chats are gone. Officer Fang looked at me. There was nothing in his eyes. Just one look. Then he walked off. I shut the door. Slid down against it to the floor. The cutter was still on the balcony, covered with an old sheet. Suddenly there was noise outside the window. I got up to look down. A bunch of work trucks were parked on the empty lot. A few guys were prying open the septic tank lid with tools. Some folks in white coats stood around, holding sampling devices. My stomach lurched. Day 23 at 4 p.m. The doorbell rang. I opened the door. Officer Fang and Captain Lin were standing there. Captain Lin's expression was different now. That polite, businesslike calm was totally gone, replaced by something ice cold. Not hostility. It was certainty. Young Wei, come with us. He didn't call me Mr. Yang anymore. I nodded. Changed my shoes. Grabbed my phone. A neighbor peeked out into the hallway. Aunt Lou stood at her door. Her mouth opened slightly. She didn't say a word. Just stared at me. Something glistening in her eyes. The interrogation room was small. White walls. Gray bricks. A metal table. 2 chairs. Officer Fang placed a file in front of me. The cover read Report of Analysis in bold black letters. Bold black font. Captain Lin sat across from me. Hands clasped on the table. Yang Wei. The human tissue we recovered from the complex septic tank, after DNA matching, confirmed to be your wife Lai Li. The room went quiet for about 5 seconds. In those 5 seconds, I made a decision. I wasn't Yang Wei anymore. No longer that good husband. Good son-in-law. Good neighbor. What was I? I didn't even know myself. But I knew. I was tired. I opened my mouth. Felt like there was a lump in my throat. Couldn't get any words out. Officer Fang poured me a glass of water and slid it over. I stared at the water for a few seconds. The clear liquid swayed a little inside the paper cup, reflecting the fluorescent light above. I picked up the cup. Took a sip. The water was cold. Had that bleach smell to it. I confess. As soon as those 2 words came out, I suddenly felt the weight that had been crushing my chest for 23 days cracks. It wasn't gone. It shattered. The shards dug into my flesh. Hurt way more than when it was pressing down. Officer Fang picked up his pen. Time of the crime. The 23rd day. I mean 23 days ago. Not today. Place of the crime. The bedroom at home. Weapon and method. Sleeping pills in the milk. Taped his mouth shut after he fell asleep. Used a pillow to smother him. I laid it out one by one. Like I was reading off a manual. Officer Fang kept his head down. The scratch of the pen on paper filled the silence. Captain Lin hasn't said a word. Until I finished. Then he spoke. What's the motive? Motive. There were a lot of motives. So many I couldn't even sort them out. The house. The past 11 years. Every harsh word. Every look of contempt. Every time he made me feel small in front of relatives. Every time he said you're just some outsider. They were like countless streams, merging into a flood. The house. I said he wanted me to put the house in his name. Said the house had nothing to do with me. I paid half the down payment. Paid the mortgage for 3 years. So you killed him? I didn't answer that question. I looked down at my hands resting on the table. If he hadn't fought me over the house, I wouldn't have gone this far. The moment I said that, even I thought it was ridiculous. He wasn't gonna fight me over the house. The house was ours from the start. Fight or not, the law was right there. But I wasn't after the law. I wanted him to admit I had a share too. I wasn't an outsider. I wasn't that out of toner. But he never admitted it. Never. I got arrested. Liming came to the detention center once. She sat across the glass. Her eyes all red and puffy. Her hand holding the phone kept shaking. Brother-in-law. She still called me that. That title felt so ironic right then. About the house. My mom said we can talk it over again. Why did you have to go this far? I held the phone. Looking at her face that looked so much like Laylee's, there was so much I wanted to say. But all that came out were 3 words. I'm sorry. Liming put down the phone. And started crying on the desk. The cop next to her signaled time was up. I stood up. Turned and walked back behind the iron door. Behind me came Liming sobbing. Days went by one after another. I couldn't tell how long. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night. Staring at the gray ceiling. Pictures would pop into my head. The warm yellow light inside the microwave in the kitchen. The spoon spinning in the milk cup. The sound of his throat moving as he downed the last sip of milk. And one picture stood out. That evening, he had some fish soup. Leaned back on the couch scrolling his phone. I was washing dishes in the kitchen. He suddenly walked in. And hugged me from behind. Just for a second. His cheek pressed against my back. Through my thin t-shirt. I could feel the softness and warmth of his skin. The fish soup today was really good. Then he let go. And went back to the living room. I didn't turn around to look at him then. If I had turned around, would everything be different? I don't know. Sunlight poured in through the iron bars. Really bright. Breakfast at the detention center was plain rice porridge. I picked it up and took a sip. Totally bland. He used to always say my porridge was too thick. I don't make it thick anymore now. But he'll never get to taste it. No. He never really drank my porridge much anyway. He just had a habit of picking on me. I hate that about him. But now I don't even have anyone to hate. Last night I had a dream. In the dream he was still in his 20s. Picking up seashells on the beach. Collected a whole big bag. Said he'd take them back to make crafts for the living room. I stood behind him. Wanted to say something to him. But thought for a long time. Didn't know what to say. When I woke up, the pillow was wet. I wasn't sure if it was sweat or something else.